Waking up early is one of the simplest yet most powerful habits you can build into your life. It's a discipline that doesn't just change how your day looks. It changes who you become. When you rise before the world does, before the noise begins, before the distractions arrive, you step into a space where your thoughts are clearer. Your energy is more focused, and your time is entirely your own. That window of quiet, that stillness in the early hours, is a gift. Most people sleep through it, but successful people, they take it seriously because they know that those early moments are where you plant the seeds for everything else that follows. In the early hours, there are no emails pulling at you, no meetings, no phone calls. It's just you and your thoughts, you and your goals, you and your priorities. That kind of mental space is hard to come by in a world that constantly demands your attention. So, what do you do with it? You think, you plan, you prepare, you get ahead. Instead of reacting to the day, you design it. You set the tone. And when the rest of the world wakes up, you're already in motion. Getting up early also builds your self-respect. Every time you choose to get out of bed when it would be easier to stay under the covers, you prove to yourself that you're in charge, that your future matters more than your comfort, that your goals are more important than your excuses. And that kind of self-trust compounds. It creates momentum. It makes you proud of yourself before the sun even rises. And pride in your habits creates power in your results. Another benefit is clarity. Early mornings are when your mind is sharpest. The noise of the world hasn't invaded yet. Your mind is free from the clutter that usually builds up by noon. That's the best time to journal, to reflect, to read, to learn, or to make the most important decisions. You're less distracted. You're more intentional. And when you live with intention, you start to see that you don't need more time. You just need to take better control of the time you already have. And let's not forget the compound effect. One early morning won't change your life, but a year of early mornings. That's where the transformation happens. That's hundreds of hours you use to improve, to grow, to train, to build something valuable. Most people say they don't have time. But the truth is, they just haven't learned to reclaim it. The early morning hours are there for anyone who's willing to get up and claim them. So, when you make waking up early a non-negotiable in your life, you're not just changing your schedule. You're changing your mindset. You're saying, I lead my life. I don't let it lead me. You're building discipline, creating space for clarity, and setting yourself up to push harder and speak less. Because you've already done the work when no one was watching. That's where real momentum begins. That's where successful days are born. Most people do just enough to get by. They do what's required, what's expected, and nothing more. But those who achieve uncommon success understand something simple yet powerful. Doing what's required only keeps you where you are. Pushing harder is what moves you forward. It's not about perfection, and it's not about talent. It's about effort. Consistent, focused, intentional effort. The willingness to push harder. When you're tired, when you're frustrated, when the results aren't showing up yet, is what separates the average from the exceptional. Pushing harder doesn't mean burning yourself out. It means going beyond comfort. Comfort is a silent killer of ambition. It lulls people into thinking they're doing enough, when in reality, they're just avoiding discomfort. Growth never lives in comfort. Growth is found just outside of what feels easy. When you push a little harder, when you make one more call, read one more chapter, give a little more attention to the details, you begin to access a version of yourself most people never meet. There's a principle in life and business. Most rewards go to the few who do what most people won't. And most people won't push. Not really. They'll talk about their goals. They'll make big plans. But when it comes to showing up day after day, when no one's clapping, when the results are small and the effort is high, that's where they quit. But those who keep pushing, those who keep showing up, they build resilience. They build character. And eventually, they build results that are hard to ignore. Success responds to extra effort, not once in a while, but repeatedly. It's not about working 16-hour days or trying to prove something to the world. It's about knowing what you want and deciding that you're going to give more of yourself to earn it. It's about raising your standards and not waiting for anyone to give you permission. Pushing harder means choosing discipline over excuses, focus over distraction, and progress over perfection. It's a mindset more than a metric. And here's the secret. It doesn't take twice the work to get twice the result. Sometimes it only takes a little bit more. A little more discipline, a little more patience, a little more preparation. The edge that makes someone excellent is often very small. But that small edge is found only by those who push. You don't have to be the smartest. You don't have to be the fastest. You just have to be willing to keep going when others slow down. Pushing harder trains you to do hard things. And when life throws challenges your way, and it will, you'll be ready. Because you've conditioned yourself to not retreat at the first sign of difficulty. You've practiced doing hard things on purpose. That's how confidence is built, not by comfort, but by conquering resistance. When you do what's difficult consistently, life starts to feel easier, not because life changed, but because you did. In the end, pushing harder is not about ego or hustle. It's about choosing to live above average. It's about deciding that your dreams are worth the effort. It's about building the kind of habits that eventually lead to unstoppable momentum. Because once you've learned how to push and you've proven it to yourself, there's not much in this world that can hold you back. Success doesn't respond to wishes, hopes, or casual interest. It answers only to those who do the work, those who take action. Wanting more is easy. Everyone wants a better life. Everyone wants more money, more freedom, more peace of mind. But wanting isn't what brings results. Doing does. The gap between wanting and having is always bridged by consistent effort. The people who rise to the top are not always the most talented or the most educated. They are the ones who showed up every day, especially on the days they didn't feel like it. Wanting more without doing more creates frustration. You end up feeling stuck, like you're spinning your wheels. But that's not because life is unfair. It's because life is responding to your level of discipline, not your level of desire. You can't out-dream a lack of discipline. You can't out-wish laziness. Effort is the price of admission for anything worthwhile. You don't get paid for wanting it. You get paid for working for it. There's a natural law that says you don't get more out of life than what you put into it. So the real question isn't, how much do you want? The real question is, how much are you willing to do for it? Are you willing to sacrifice your comfort? Are you willing to work on your skills? Are you willing to be consistent, even when the motivation is gone? Because the ones who achieve lasting success have mastered the art of doing more. Not occasionally, but habitually. This doesn't mean running yourself into the ground or never resting. It means learning to lean into growth. It means showing up with excellence, even in the small things. It means not just doing what's required, but doing what's possible. When you train yourself to go beyond average effort, you stop depending on motivation and start depending on identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who does more, who delivers, who rises. Most people operate by mood. If they feel good, they work. If they're tired or distracted, they postpone. But discipline means showing up no matter the mood. And ironically, the more disciplined you become, the more confident you become. The more confident you become, the more momentum you build. And momentum makes things that once felt hard become easier because you've built the muscles of consistency. Doing more also creates a sense of self-respect. It changes how you see yourself. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, every time you go the extra mile, you build integrity. And when your life is built on integrity, you don't have to rely on external validation. You don't need applause because your own habits become your reward. You cannot earn success without effort, and you cannot sustain success without discipline. That's the truth most people don't want to hear, but it's also the truth that sets you free. It means you are in control. You don't have to wait for a lucky break. You don't need someone to hand it to you. You already have the ability to do more. And once you start doing more, consistently, the results will come. Not all at once, but eventually and undeniably. So if you want more, you must do more. Not in a way that burns you out, but in a way that builds you up. Because when discipline becomes your lifestyle, success becomes your outcome. Not by accident, not by chance, but by design. Speaking less is not about staying silent. It's about becoming more intentional with your words and letting your actions become the loudest voice in the room. In today's world, a lot of people spend more time talking about their goals than actually working on them. They announce their plans on social media, tell their friends they're going to start, and hype themselves up with big language. But the truth is, success isn't impressed by talk. Success pays attention to discipline, consistency, and results. And often, the people who talk the least are the ones doing the most. There's a kind of power in restraint. When you speak less, you conserve energy. You protect your focus. You don't get caught up in defending your vision or explaining your plans to people who don't understand them. You simply go to work. You build in silence. You train in the dark. And then when the results start showing, there's no need to convince anyone. You've already proven it. One of the reasons to speak less is because it keeps you from overcommitting and underdelivering. When you constantly tell people what you're going to do, your brain starts to feel a false sense of achievement, like you've already done it. That's dangerous. It tricks you into feeling satisfied without having earned anything. But when you stay quiet and focus on action, all of your energy goes into creating results, not appearances. And results always speak louder than intentions. Also, speaking less gives you space to listen more. Listening is one of the most underrated success tools. When you listen, truly listen, you learn. You pick up on what others miss. You observe patterns. You understand people. And the more you understand, the better decisions you make. Successful people listen carefully and speak with purpose. They don't waste words, and they don't waste time trying to be impressive. They let their discipline do the talking. Speaking less also helps you manage your mindset. It keeps you from getting caught up in negativity, gossip, or unnecessary distractions. When you practice silence, you stay anchored. You think more clearly. You protect your mind from noise, and that protects your focus. Because focus is a fragile thing. It's easily scattered. But when you create a habit of speaking less and listening more, you begin to take full control of your attention. And that is where power lies. Many of the most successful people in the world operate quietly. They don't post every move. They don't broadcast every goal. They simply move with purpose and then let their results introduce them. They know that a strong tree doesn't need to shout to grow. It just digs its roots deep and rises. And when the storm comes, it's the quiet strength that survives, not the loudest noise. Being intentional with your words also sharpens your communication. When you do speak, your words carry more weight. People begin to listen because they know you don't speak just to fill space. You speak to deliver value. That's influence. Not just being heard, but being respected. And influence earned through action is stronger than influence claimed through speech. So speak less, not because you have nothing to say, but because you've chosen to live a life where your work, your progress, and your results are the clearest message. Talk less about the climb and focus on climbing. Talk less about your goals and let your consistency become the message. In a world full of noise, be the one who speaks with purpose and leads with action. Quiet confidence is not about arrogance or proving anything to anyone. It's about knowing who you are, what you're doing, and where you're going without needing to announce it every step of the way. It's a calm, grounded belief in your ability to figure things out, to show up and to deliver, even when no one is watching. Quiet confidence is built through preparation, consistency, and small wins that compound over time. When you live with that kind of internal certainty, the need for external validation fades away. You've probably seen people who constantly talk about what they're going to do. They try to impress others with their words, their plans, their big dreams. But more often than not, that kind of loud energy comes from insecurity. It's an attempt to convince the world of something they haven't yet convinced themselves of. Confidence that's real doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need a spotlight. It just needs a mission. And the ones who are truly on a mission don't have time to perform. They're too busy producing. Quiet confidence is earned. It's not something you fake your way into. It comes from doing the work, day in and day out, when no one's cheering, when there's no applause, and when results are still miles away. It's showing up early, staying late, and staying true to your principles no matter how you feel. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, every time you follow through, you're casting a vote for the person you believe you can become. Over time, that builds an unshakable trust in yourself. And that's where confidence is born. This kind of confidence doesn't seek recognition. It seeks mastery. It's focused on growth, not attention. It isn't afraid of silence or solitude because it finds strength there. While others chase quick wins and cheap praise, the quietly confident are playing the long game. They're building a foundation that will hold, no matter what storms come. And that kind of internal strength is more rare and valuable than any loud, flashy success story. Quiet confidence also changes how you lead. You don't need to control others, dominate conversations, or micromanage every detail. You lead by example. People watch how you move. They feel your consistency. They trust your word because they've seen your discipline. And that trust, built slowly and silently, becomes the strongest form of influence. It doesn't come from speaking often. It comes from delivering consistently. It also affects how you handle failure. When your confidence is built on preparation and purpose, failure doesn't break you. It sharpens you. You see setbacks as feedback, not judgment. You adjust, recalibrate, and keep moving. Not because you feel pressure to succeed, but because success is simply a byproduct of the path you've chosen. You've done the work. You've earned the right to keep going. And you don't need anyone to tell you you're on the right track. You already know. There's something powerful about being quietly certain in a world that's loudly uncertain. In a culture that rewards attention, standing still and doing the deep work can feel counterintuitive. But that's where real power lies. When you no longer need the world's applause, you free yourself to focus on what really matters, your purpose, your craft, your values. You become dangerous in the best way, focused, steady, and relentless. So quiet confidence isn't a weakness. It's a sign of real maturity. It means you've stopped trying to impress, started trying to improve. It means your ego doesn't need to be fed by noise. It's fed by growth. And when you walk in that kind of self-assurance, the world can't help but take notice. Not because you demanded it, but because your results spoke for you. Discipline in small daily habits is where long-term success quietly begins. It's not the massive actions you take once in a while that shape your life. It's the small, seemingly insignificant decisions you make day after day. Most people underestimate the power of repetition. They think big changes come from big moves. But in reality, the most powerful transformations are the result of consistent effort applied to small actions, repeated over time. Discipline isn't about one heroic moment of willpower. It's about showing up over and over, regardless of how you feel. When you train yourself to be consistent with the little things, waking up early, planning your day, reading a few pages, doing one more set at the gym, you're building a foundation that becomes nearly unshakable. These habits may not seem important in the moment. In fact, they're easy to dismiss because the payoff isn't instant. But that's where most people get it wrong. Success doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow build. It's a result of stacking disciplined days on top of each other until momentum kicks in. Discipline compounds, just like interest in a bank account. The first few deposits don't look like much, but give it enough time, and you've got something that starts to work for you, instead of you always working for it. That's the beauty of consistent habits. They begin to work in the background of your life. They become automatic. And once your success habits are automatic, success itself starts to feel automatic. This doesn't mean it gets easier. It means you get stronger. The early wake-ups, the healthy meals, the hard conversations, the time spent in quiet reflection, they all reinforce a sense of control. And when you feel in control of your actions, you stop being a victim of circumstance. Life doesn't just happen to you anymore. You start directing it. You respond instead of reacting. You lead instead of following. That kind of internal discipline creates freedom on the outside. The key is to remove the drama from discipline. Don't make it emotional. Don't ask yourself every day if you feel like doing the work. Just decide that it's who you are. You're the type of person who follows through. You're the type of person who doesn't break promises to yourself. When you begin to see discipline as part of your identity, it becomes non-negotiable. And when something becomes non-negotiable, you don't need motivation. You operate from principle. Another benefit of disciplined habits is the clarity they bring. Every time you do what you said you would do, your mind gets quieter. The internal battles get smaller. You stop questioning yourself so much. Doubt fades. Confidence grows. You're no longer carrying the mental weight of unfinished tasks and broken commitments. You're clean. You're focused. And you begin to move with purpose instead of pressure. People often ask how to stay motivated. But that's the wrong question. Motivation is fleeting. Discipline is reliable. The goal should never be to feel like it. The goal is to become the kind of person who does it anyway. And when your daily actions are aligned with your long-term vision, you don't need hype to keep going. You've already built the system that will carry you forward. It's in the quiet hours, the invisible efforts, and the small wins that greatness is born. The world may not see it at first. There's no applause for waking up early or reading another chapter. But in time, those who were disciplined in their habits will be the ones others call lucky or naturally successful. There's nothing lucky about it. It's the result of 100 small decisions made every single day with intention and consistency. The path to uncommon success isn't paved with noise, shortcuts, or grand declarations. It's shaped by quiet mornings, relentless effort, and the discipline to stay focused when no one's watching. When you choose to get up early, to push harder than yesterday, and to speak less while doing more, you begin to shift from chasing results to attracting them. Over time, your habits become your identity, your discipline becomes your strength, and your consistency becomes your advantage. You don't need to shout about what you're building. Your life will speak for you.